you be ordering some bubble wrap today?
Yes, it's YT14.
For Russell?
Yep.
All right, thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Hello.
Hello.
Put car back there. We'll be moving fast. You don't care?
Keep me in your pocket.
Oh, I will. For sure. Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a great day.
Okay. Driving any kind.
Myself usually nervous for interviews. Oops. But I just feel like this is so important. I'm gonna go check in now.
The global shipping industry handles about 80% of international trade. 80% of the stuff that you and everyone else buys from overseas gets put on a ship at some point to get to you. So blockages are very serious. You remember the Ever Given, the ship that got stuck in the Suez Canal a few years ago? Right now, the shipping industry is facing two crises. The first is at the Panama Canal, where a drought is causing such long delays that authorities have started auctioning off spots to jump the line. And the second, of course, is in the Red Sea, where Houthi rebels are wilding international commercial ships to protest Israel's offensive in Gaza. Coming up on Today Explained, the shipping news.
Cut through like a Panama Canal. Cut through like a Panama Canal. Cut through like a Panama Canal. Cut through like a...
Support for Today Explained comes from BetterHelp Online Therapy. They say humans are social animals, but if that's the case, why are relationships so hard? The best relationships with friends, family, or partners happen when both people put in the time and commitment to make them great. Therapy can help. BetterHelp provides easy and affordable online therapy. You can start the process in minutes and switch therapists anytime. Give your relationship some love with BetterHelp. You can visit betterhelp.com/explain today to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/explained.
Roses are red. This poem's a gimmick. The marriage rate is falling for black women, and the reasons are systemic.
The barriers might look different, they might show up differently, but they're facing the same forbidden black love barrier.
Why is the marriage rate so low? For black women, that answer is especially complicated. That's this week on The Weeds. New episodes every Wednesday.
It's Today Explained. I'm Noelle King. The global shipping trade is facing two crises right now. The first is at the 50-mile-long man-made canal that connects the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Mia Dahl is a freelance reporter focusing on, of all things, the Panama Canal. Mia writes for Foreign Policy and leading magazine The Economist, and she says the canal is having problems this year because of weather.
Right now we're seeing a really severe drought in Panama. There's this weather phenomena called El Nino that's been particularly strong this past year. And last October we actually saw that there was 41% less precipitation than usual. And that's only set to get worse as the country right now heads into the dry season. The Panama Canal Authority has actually had to slash the number of ships allowed through the canal from about 38, 36 ships a day before the crisis started to about half of that expected in February.
To make matters worse, each vessel is allowed to carry 40% less weight. This prompted some ships to unload their cargo and to move it by rail to the other side.
The Panama Canal is surrounded on one side by the Pacific Ocean and on the other side by the Caribbean. Why does a drought affect it? Can't they just push water in from the ocean or in from the Gulf?
So yeah, that's basically because of how the canal works.
As a cargo boat nears the canal's approach channels from the sea, the tugboats attach a tow line to the cargo ship and move them into alignment with the canal lock's narrow entrance.
They come in from the freshwater side, so the water that provides these locks has to come from the three nearby lakes, and then you need to lift the ships up in an altitude of these 85 feet above sea level water, lifting them up to the sea level, and then they can go out. It's simply a matter of the mechanics of the canal.
Once a cargo ship is firmly within a lock, the lock gate behind it then shuts, while the lock gate ahead gradually opens, displacing water at a steady pace, thus raising the ship so that it can then enter the next lock.
The canal has to use fresh water to transit the ships through, and that water then goes right out into the ocean. So we're actually wasting huge amounts of fresh water to make these operations work. It takes about 52 million gallons of water for every ship that you transit through the canal. And that's the equivalent to filling about 80 Olympic-sized pools, or as much as 500,000 Panamanians will consume in a day. The other thing is that, yes, Panama is also a very rainy, humid country, actually one of the rainiest in the world. So it's lived in an abundance of fresh water, and people haven't really been that careful about water as a scarce resource, as actually Panamanians use 2.5 times more water than the world average, and the most water of any Latin American country. But right now the situation suddenly looks different. And starting to think about water as a more scarce resource.
What kind of ships are going through the Panama Canal? What's being carried through it?
So there's quite a lot of different types of cargo going through the Panama Canal. There's, of course, containers, which is a big part of the about 5% of seaborne world trade goes through the Panama Canal, and that's the equivalent of almost $300 billion worth of cargo. So it's quite a lot in terms of value and volume. And when you look regionally, it's about 40% of U.S. container traffic. So regionally, it's like a really big bulk of traffic. And just to paint a picture of how this looks, the canal serves more than 180 maritime routes today. It connects 170 countries and it reaches approximately 2,000 ports all over the world.
I remember the last time we heard a lot about supply chain issues was during COVID, and we saw that things were getting more expensive. It was impossible to buy certain things, or if you bought furniture, it would take 6 months to get there. What is this doing to American consumers? Anything yet?
This disruption means like disruption of supply chains. It means longer waiting times for consumer, that in some special cases they might not even get the products that they're waiting for because they're just stuck or rerouting and it takes too long for them to arrive. And then it might mean, or actually experts say that this is already happening, that it means higher prices for consumers.
JP Morgan warning that consumer price inflation might grow thanks to rising global shipping costs.
Brazilian meat, Chilean wines, and bananas from Ecuador are regularly shipped across the canal.
And by the way, how long can banana sit there? Think about it. You think banana can sit there for 3 weeks? You ever have banana at the kitchen, you leave it there for 3 weeks? What happens to it? Imagine.
So this is bad news for shippers. They're having to find new ways around, or they're having to wait. This is bad news for consumers, including American consumers, because things are more expensive. What does this mean, though, for Panama?
I talked to Raisa Banfield, who's the former vice mayor of Panama City and who's now heading an environmental organization called Sustainable Panama, and she described how she was sometimes looking out the window from her apartment in Panama City and just seeing the ships waiting in line, and what that meant to her, because the Panama Canal is really like a national pride, and when it's not working, it hits the country really hard. For Panama, this is really a cornerstone of their economy. In 2022, it generated $4.32 billion in revenue. And when this canal is disrupted, it creates huge uncertainty for the country. It means not only that the revenues from the canal are at risk, but it also means that the many side industries that serve the canal and serve the customers that go through the canal are in danger.
Is anybody in the Panamanian government talking about how to, in the event of a drought like we have now, how to just increase the amount of water going in? Are there any clever ideas?
I think the most viable option that everyone is talking about is the damming up of the Indio River, a nearby river. That would basically mean damming up the river, drilling tunnels through a nearby mountain to then provide more water into the Lake Gatun, which is the main reserve providing water to the Panama Canal. But there's also some issues around this. We're heading into general elections this spring in Panama, and probably this kind of new project of damming up the Indio River could be rather unpopular amongst the communities that it will affect, because it means basically flooding huge areas of biodiverse jungle. It means that some communities will be displaced. So while it does seem like the best solution to the current problem, it's not an easy one.
This has been a shipping route for generations. If it can be disrupted by climate change, if it can be disrupted by El Nino as it has been, what is the future of the Panama Canal here?
The climate change experts that I've talked to all agree that these kind of weather phenomena, extreme weather events like the kind of drought that we've seen this past year, are likely to become only more frequent and more severe. So the Panama Canal will need to resolve its water problem, and there's some solutions on the table for that, but they might not just be as fast or as easy as the country or everyone else would hope for. But I think there's no doubt that the Panama Canal will remain the most important shipping route in the region for any foreseeable future.
Mia Dahl, she's a freelance reporter covering the Panama Canal. So between conflict and climate change, we are looking at some of the most expensive traffic jams in the world. However, as we're going to learn coming up, warm weather is also creating an opening. Support for Today Explained comes from Delete Me. A lot of your personal data is stored online, and that leaves you vulnerable to identity theft, phishing with a PH, annoying spam calls. Delete Me can help get in the way of some of that. They find and remove personal information that you don't want online. They make sure it stays off. Sarah Frank is my colleague on the business side of things here at Vox. She tried Delete Me, and here's how it went.
It was really surprising how much of my personal identifiable information was on sites that were accessible to really anyone. Knowing that Delete Me is able to find this information and remove it on my behalf makes me feel a lot safer.
You can take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me, now at a special discount for our listeners. You can get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/today and use promo code today at checkout. Again, 20% off, joindeleteme.com/today and enter code today at checkout. Did you miss it? joindeleteme.com/today, code today.
Support for Today Explained comes from Shopify. How well do you know the ins and outs of starting a business? Admittedly, I don't know very much. To actually do it, apparently, you might not need as much savvy as you think because there are e-commerce tools to help make getting started easy for anyone. Tools like, you guessed it folks, Shopify. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. The beginning stages, the middle stages, the tool called Shopify Magic, which might help make things even easier. Who doesn't like magic? You can sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/explained, all lowercase. Don't you dare use uppercase. Go to shopify.com/explained now to grow your business no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/explained. Enjoy. Support for the program today comes from Noom, who would like to remind you that your body is like no one else's. Your body is a snowflake, and they want to help you with your snowflake. According to Noom, they build a plan specifically for you based around psychology and biology, even helping you understand why you might crave that one specific food at the same time every day. I've never craved the same food at the same time every day, but maybe Vox's Sarah Frank has.
Using Noom, I liked how easy it was to get set up, and I liked their super friendly features that allowed me to track and input my workouts, goals, moods, and stress levels every day.
You can stay focused on what's important to you with Noom's psychology and biology-based approach. Sign up for your trial today at noom.com. That's NOOM.com.
This is Today Explained.
Go ahead, give me your full name and tell me what you do.
Hi, my name is Shrat Ganapathy. I'm an assistant professor of international economics at the Georgetown University School of Foreign Service.
Okay, so in 2024, many of us who are alive and conscious are very familiar with the idea that supply chains are important, and if they end up tangled, we see higher prices, we have more trouble getting things. First there was COVID-19, then there was the Ever Given, that big ship that blocked the Suez Canal. You actually joined us on the show. Then there are attacks on container ships in the Red Sea, and now we hear there's a drought, and it's affecting the Panama Canal. Is this like, you're giggling, is this like a particularly bad time for global shipping?
To quote from Dickens, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Shippers have both seen this as an opportunity as well as an existential threat. For some shippers, these demand spikes have been incredibly great for profits. They've jacked up shipping rates and companies are able to profit. But at the same time, we've got this new normal where you just keep these persistent shocks, and that could affect long-run demand and create costs for both the shippers and us, the consumers.
What are the biggest threats to global shipping at the moment?
I put it kind of twofold. One threat is the geopolitics of the world. Things are changing, friendships are being realigned, and that's causing kind of differences all over the world. We see some of this in kind of the attacks off in the Red Sea. The second threat is a little different. It's a longer run, more existential threat of climate change, which is going to reconfigure how the world looks and also reconfigure where ships can go.
Who and where is being most affected by the chaos in the Red Sea?
It's really affecting one big trade route, and that's the connection between East Asia and Europe. So where you want to look at is consumer goods in Europe. Basically, these are consumer goods coming from China to Europe. You're going to see delays on them potentially, but you can also see small price increases. Now, how big are those price increases? That's unclear. We saw during the Ever Given, it resolved itself relatively quickly. Its question is, how long is this going to last, and will it resolve itself in the near future?
Are there other shipping routes in the world at present that are also threatened by conflicts that maybe are not as high profile?
Well, there's something that may become high profile in the near future, and again, I'm not a political scientist, so I'm not going to specify, is this going to happen today or tomorrow, but the South China Sea is a particularly hot flashpoint.
Our ship leads its way through, but from afar we see a Chinese Coast Guard vessel blasting water cannon onto a Philippine supply boat. Confrontations like this have become the norm.
The South China Sea really connects kind of all our Asian kind of new emerging superpowers. You've got Taiwan, you've got China, you've got Vietnam, you've got Malaysia, you've got the Philippines. And right now there's lots and lots of trade in things such as electronic components, toy components, all these intermediate goods that get packaged together, creating these value chains that produce our consumer goods in the West today. And we've seen, especially recently, there's been much more national sentiment by some of these countries defending and or constructing even naval bases in this area.
The Philippines has identified the 4 new military bases that it will be giving U.S. troops access to. At least one of them will face the South China Sea, paving the way for a greater American presence in key locations in the region.
Will this become a flashpoint? I don't know, but right now a large amount of world trade flows through the South China Sea, and this could become another potential way where we may shut down trade.
All right, so we've got conflict on one hand and we've got climate change on the other. Are there other parts of the world, are there other shipping routes that are threatened by climate change?
There's not just threatened by climate change, but there might be new routes opened by climate change. This is something that has been long speculated. If you go back to your AP US history class, you'll remember the fabled Northwest Passage.
Oh yeah.
There's also the Northeast Passage. One connects the North Atlantic Sea with kind of the North Pacific. One goes through Canada and the other past Russia.
We are going through the fabled Northwest Passage. More people have been in space and successfully transited the Northwest Passage by sailing boat.
Historically, these routes are not traveled frequently because they're covered by ice. Now, climate change is making the Arctic recede extremely quickly. There's already trials runs of commercial shipping taking these routes. The Northeast Passage past Russia will effectively reduce the time from Yokohama Bay in Tokyo
work's not over. I'm kind of volunteered to, I don't know what's called, be a poll worker, I guess. So there's training today. See what it's all about. It's supposedly like 3 hours long. See what it's all about. Defend democracy. I'm kind of hoping there's free food, but I doubt it. We're at Board of Elections of Butler County.